Scott says, do mites themselves harm bees or brood, or is it all due to there being a vector for viruses? Hey everybody, David Byrne, pumped and excited to be with you today on this Friday. Green chair answer day and inside my workroom because too cold and rainy outside. So yeah, this is where I have spent a large part of my life in this facility. It goes on back that way quite a bit, but we manufactured a lot of beekeeping equipment in here for many years, and now we're redoing it, revamping it, going to turn it into some really cool bee stuff. So it's going to be indoors on a cold day like today. Back to Scott's question though. Oh, by the way, this is unedited. This is raw green chair Friday answer day. So I sit down, I answer questions left over from my live stream last night and sometimes some questions from my YouTube channel in the comment section. So thanks for watching today. Scott, you ask a good question. Mites do actually harm bees. They actually bite the bees. They make a wound on the bees, and bees don't heal very well. And that wound can make the bees, unhealthy to have an open wound like that. And so, yeah, it's not just that they're spreading viruses, but their bite is also not good for bees either. Good evening, David from Greece. The time is 3:50 a.m. This was last night during our live stream. I live stream every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, where we just talk about bees. And so be sure and join us. So he was watching, or she was watching last night. That's great. That was 3:50 a.m. for you. I want you to suggest me on an alternative solution for the smoker. We have restrictions on the use of fire, and in the summer, I cannot do inspections. Oh gosh, okay, gotcha. Well, I would say, is it legal for you to use these new vapor, these type of, what am I trying to say? It actually doesn't use heat or fire. It actually uses a type of vapor. It doesn't sound like the right words that I'm supposed to be using here, but it's probably much safer. You need to look into that. A lot of people sell these now, and they burn, or they kind of they heat up, I think, some different types of liquid, and that's what makes the smoke. It's kind of like steam, but a little different. So you might check that out. That might be a solution for you. Mr. Allen said, I had a queen that was laying lots of drones. She later started laying good brood pattern. Any reason why? That's a good question. A couple of things could be going on here. When I think about your statement, I'm wondering if you didn't have laying workers laying drones, and then the queen, her pheromones, or just her presence and the pheromones clamped down the laying workers from laying drones, and that way she was able to lay fertilized eggs. That could be one thing that happened. The other thing that could have happened, it could be that sometimes queens, their plumbing gets clogged up, or some muscles or nerves may not be reacting correctly. And so she may not have been able to fertilize the eggs, even though she may have had stored sperm in her spermatheca. There was just a little hiccup in the plumbing, and it freed itself or got working again, and all was well. That's usually what's taking place for sure. Leslie, first year beak. Good job, first year beak. And I have the standard cotton bee suit. Can you talk about the mesh ones, and if you would recommend the suit versus the jacket? I do like the mesh ones. They seem to allow more air. Now that mesh is usually layered. And so there's a outside mesh and an inside mesh. There's a gap in the middle. So even if a bee got onto the mesh part, bees stinger, what is it, 1.5 millimeters long, is tiny. So it's not going to go through that mesh. And it allows ventilation or air to go through. I have a little bit of mesh, as you have seen in my videos. I like it a lot. It's not totally a 100% vented suit, but it does have mesh on it. And I do like that a lot. Let's see, your other question was suit versus jacket. I like a jacket. They're easy to get on and off. I have worn a lot of suits, especially when I was removing bees from homes and businesses. I would wear a full suit then. Suits are harder to get into. You got to work your leg or your feet down into the legs, and it's just a lot to put on. I like slipping on my jackets on and off. I like the kind of jacket like I have now that you don't zip it in the front. It's one piece. You pull it over your head and zip, your hat. And I like that. There's less moving parts. Put it on, zip your hat, you're ready to go. That's kind of my go-to, the one that I like the most. I don't like suits because of the reasons I said. Just a little clumsy to put on, but I do wear suits in extreme cases where I need full protection. So I do have a suit for those moments, but if I can get by with it, I prefer a jacket. And if I can get by with it, just a hat and veil. I love working bees, no gloves, just a hat and a veil. If the bees will allow me to do that. They don't always, but sometimes they do. Hey, Randy, first year beekeeper in North Texas. Well, another first year beekeeper. Congratulations, guys. I love seeing so many of you coming into beekeeping, getting your feet wet first year. Lots to learn in your first year. I've got 8 full frames of honey on top of hive. Do I still need to feed a candy board all winter? Boy, I tell you, Randy, good call, good question. It all depends really. A lot of different ways you can approach this. North Texas can still occasionally have kind of like a winter blast, but it's not anything like what I have. It's not like a hard winter. You could probably get by without feeding your bees a winter bee kind or a candy board on top in North Texas, but it would be nice to have on there in case you did get that unusual cold snap, snowstorm, ice storm, and it lasted a week or so. I'd put that on there for insurance, just to be sure. Is it too late, Jared says, to check for a queen and introduce a new queen if queenless? In the Hudson Valley, New York area, lows 50 degrees Fahrenheit to low 40s during the day. Okay. Never too late to add a queen if you're queenless. It's never too late. You could do it in the dead of winter. You really could. I'm serious. If you can get a queen safely, that means sometimes the queens will die in shipment if it's cold, or they get sick if it gets too cold, and they won't be good queens. But if you can get a queen that stays warm in transport, and you get a queen, and let's say it's these temperatures you're talking about, you open the hive up quickly, and you can insert the queen cage with the candy plug in it, and to a queenless colony, you could do it in the dead of winter. I mean, if they're clustered, you need to make sure you put that queen in the cluster. But you could do it. It's not the best scenario, but it likely would work. Now, she has to be mated because a virgin queen has no option to go mating if it's cold outside. Charlie, how can you prevent your honey from crystallizing? I would say all honey over a long, many years of a period of time will crystallize. Almost all honey will. And I would say to get it not to crystallize, I think what you mean is, before you consume it within a year or so, is the best way to do it is keep it warm, keep it in a warm place, or keep it in a refrigerator. A lot of people don't know that. People think it'll crystallize faster in a refrigerator, but at a colder temperature like that, not so much. It will over a long period of time, but it just gets harder, or I guess thicker is a better word, thicker in the refrigerator. Crystallizing happens at a particular temperature in like the mid to upper 50 degree Fahrenheit. That's how you make creamed honey. You let it crystallize like that. And so if you can get away from that ideal temperature, and if your honey has less debris in it, like pollen grains and other things in it for those crystals to attach and grow on, that would help too, Charlie. David, I have noticed many small hive beetle dead outside my hive. Is this normal? Wow, my gosh, I'm about to lose my mind. You have an awesome scenario. You have something going on where small hive beetles are being killed, dragged outside of the hive, and left for dead. Wow! You could sell that queen as a breeder queen. Is that a characteristic of the genetics of that queen, of the hive, her progeny, or is that something in your treatment? I want to know what you're doing to produce dead small hive beetle. I've never heard of that. That's crazy. Most of our mite treatments don't even touch a small hive beetle. They can sit there and play volleyball on top of a Formic Pro pad. They can eat their lunch off of Viroxan, oxalic acid. Yeah, they don't care about that. What are you doing? Wow, what in the world? Dead small hive beetle just laying outside of your hive? Incredible. I don't know what to say about that. You have something going on. You need to experiment and find out why that's happening. And please get back to us. Monica, why does there have to be a hole in the candy board? Oh, our candy boards do have a tiny little vent and about 3/8. It's really small. And we have that in there just for in case there's a moisture buildup in the top of the hive. It can help deplete that. But also more so, bees can go in and out and take a real quick potty flight. They can defecate, come back in, and they do utilize that. If you don't like that, if you're the person that would rather that be capped over or sealed off, just get a piece of Gorilla Tape, metal tape, duct tape, and just cover it up. And that you don't have to have a hole up there. That's your call. Now, this question is asked a lot. I answer it about once or twice a week. Can I leave my robber screen on for winter? Can the bees haul out dead bees from through a robber screen up and out of the top hole? Yeah, they can. It's not ideal. It's going to take more time, and they may not be motivated to do that, but they can, and they will. But it's not the best scenario. It's better once it gets cold and bees aren't robbing. Like here in Illinois now, we're only getting into the 40s and 30s at night and all, below freezing temperatures at night, and cold and windy. So robber screens can come off. There won't be any more robbing this year. I would recommend not using that in the wintertime. Hey, Gene, David, is it a problem to leave too much honey on the hive for winter? Does it stop the queen laying eggs? No, not a problem. I mean, never say never. It could be a problem, but here's how this goes down. The bees will consume honey in the wintertime. And as they consume that honey, they are emptying out comb that honey was in, freeing up space for the queen to lay in. And that cluster can move anywhere, and they can actually manipulate what kind of honey they're going to eat, and they can prepare those cells for the queen to lay in. She doesn't lay a lot in the wintertime in most cases. Mine do because I feed them all winter. Hey, Fred, I am putting my drone frames in for the first time. Do I place it to the outer space or toward the center to be drawn out? I have put wax on them. Fred, I hope that you are in a country, in an area on the planet where it is spring. I hope you don't live in Illinois putting a green, I'm going to trust that you're putting a green drone comb frame on in a very spring, early summer area of the world, because that won't work in the wintertime. Now, you need to put those about 2 to 3 frames from the outside edge wall. That's usually where most of the drones are raised, outside of the cluster, on the edge of the brood cluster. So I shouldn't say cluster, on the brood nest area, on the outside of the brood nest area. So that's usually the first 4 frames, the brood nest area. So if you get it, out more toward the outside of the brood nest area, you're going to have a lot better chance that green drone comb frame working for you. It's a mite trap for those of you that have never heard of it. Good question. All right, let's move along here. Next question is, I made 3 how do you say that? Vivaldi. I think it's Vivaldi boxes, thinking I could feed jars and sugar bricks in the winter. Some old timers said bees would not come up through the holes. Sugar needed to be directly on top of frames. I agree with the old timers. Bees don't really come up through those holes a lot. Now, if you put fondant or something right up next to that hole, they will, but they're getting away from the warmth of the cluster. Vivaldi boards are actually like a 2-inch, 2 or 3 inch board, like a spacer box, and it's what it is. And it's sometimes likened or confused or compared to a quilt box. It's sort of like a quilt box. Sometimes they have screens in them. Sometimes they have a hole in the middle of these boxes. And a lot of people combine it to be used as a kind of like a moisture absorbing, ventilating box on top, or a lot of people use it to feed. So it sounds like you want to use it to feed. I don't think it's the best way to feed bees, but it's not a terribly wrong way, and it possibly might work really well for you. I would say I don't have a definitive answer for you. Try it, get back to us, tell us what you think about that. What do you think about OA fogger treatment? Are you meaning a true fogger, or are you talking about a vaporizer? OA should not be fogged. The temperature is not correct on foggers. That's not how they're supposed to work when you're administering OA. OA should be through a true OA vaporizer, excuse me, where the temperatures are accurate to get the crystals to actually vaporize correctly. Oh, Jessica, after treating bees with Formic Pro, my queen went over 4 weeks without laying, finally seeing eggs and larvae. Still not sure I can trust her to be a reliable queen. Get it? I understand. I'm not always, am I in focus? I'm not always comfortable with the queen, that kind of hit and miss either. Sometimes it's not the queen, it's actual hive. The hive had a problem. Maybe some of the workers were so disturbed by the OA. Was it OA that you used? No, Formic Pro. So if you use the Formic Pro, maybe the bees were disturbed by it and they just didn't really take care of what the queen was doing, the larvae or so. And then finally it kind of dissipated, things got better. Nonetheless, things are better. I would go with her and see if it just doesn't clear up. Let's face it, people, treating a hive with any of these things like OA, Formic Pro, sorry, it's kind of like we've been putting insulation in here. And that fiberglass insulation really gets into your lungs. I wear a mask too. But yeah, it could be that the bees are kind of snapping around, but all those vapors, all those treatments, hey, we'll never find one that's wonderful for bees. They're killing a bug on a bug. They're killing a mite on a bee, and we're hoping they don't hurt the bees? Really? Okay. I know they tell us they don't hurt bees, but okay. Yeah, tell me that. I'll believe you, I guess. But in this case, hey, maybe it affected your bees and they just couldn't put up with what, they couldn't really, I guess, feed maybe the larvae like they wanted to. And so she appeared that she wasn't laying. She could have been laying, but they were getting rid of dead larvae maybe. All right, Gigi, I need a drink of water. Thanks for teaching us so much every week. Boy, I do work hard on that. Are you considering selling construction plans for your winter bee kind feeding boards? I know quite a few of us are handy and like to build our gear. Well, we do sell the empty ones. Candy boards are not something, I didn't invent the idea of a candy board. That has been around forever. Now, I invented one that has the insulation in it on the top, that has a candy on it, that has a ventilation on it. But as far as the construction plans, I think you could easily, all you're trying to do is build something to hold candy to sit on top of your bees. I think anyone, you said you're handy already, I think you can definitely figure that out. Yeah, it's no secret on how to build that. Yeah. Hey, Sherry, inspected our 4 hives Sunday. One only had 5 bees and a queen left in the bottom box. What would cause a colony to leave her? Weak queen? I couldn't believe she was in there almost all by herself. Now, that is something I heard a lot of beekeepers say about their bees this fall. I'm hearing a lot of that. I really am. That is something that we often hear with absconding. And that is something we also heard a lot of during colony collapse disorder. This was a symptom. Bees were all gone, maybe a queen left behind, whatever. Yeah, why bees are absconding in the fall like that? Puzzled. Don't know. There could be so many things, but so many beekeepers are experiencing this, and it is really unfortunate. Hi, David and Sherry. Another first-year beekeeper. How does a beekeeper determine when to split a bee colony, and what are the benefits of splitting? Determine when to split your hive is based on spring, when bees make their own swarms. That's the best time to split. Maybe it's better to split it about a week before they swarm. Nobody knows when they're going to swarm. But if you can time it just right, watch for queen cells. When they start making queen cells, split your hives. Use those queen cells in your splits for your upcoming queens. That works really well. The benefits of a split is that you can save your bees and not lose them when they swarm. When they swarm, 50% of your bees are flying away, and you're losing your chance of having a strong colony or making honey out of a hive that swarms in the spring. That's a benefit. All right, hey Matthew, my hive was doing great, awesome population, plenty of brood and food. I noticed they were starting to eat their reserves, so I fed ProSweet. Now I have a top deep full, but the bottom is nearly empty, include no brood, just empty polished cells. Could I have caught them just after the brood hatched and the queen was not there to lay yet? It's getting very late for inspections. Yeah. Matthew, it sounds like your bees have moved up into that box. Sounds like you might have been feeding them from the top. That's where the bees went up there for food. They're going to stay up there now. They're not going to go back down probably in the wintertime. And that's pretty much going to be just what they're going to do. They could drop back down there. It's not impossible. Studies show they have, but it doesn't really explain. We don't really know why they did that. It's just how they're moving upward. And it is a shame, though, that you said you notice they started to eat their reserves. So they're eating their winter reserves already. And shoot, it's not even winter yet. And they're already plowing through it. Yeah. Jessica, she's one of our team leaders on our live streams, one of our administrators. We love Jessica on our live stream every Thursday night. Jessica says, David, have you ever experienced pollen mites on your bees? And if so, do you have to treat them? Oh, pollen mites. Pollen mites are not as rare as you would think on honeybees, although they're nothing like Varroa destructor mites. Pollen mites are found more on like mason bees. What am I trying to say? More like native pollinators, probably. They're not so much found. Oh, they're more found on social bees, not so much found on honeybees. So they are found on honeybees. Don't get me wrong. Even here in the US they are, but in other countries too. And I don't know. Oh, they're about the size of a, okay, so you know what a Varroa destructor looks like? They're about 1/4 of that size. So if you could take a Varroa destructor, divide it in fourths, that's how small they are. They're tiny. And so, but they'll get all over the bees. They don't really cause a lot of harm to the honeybees. It's not anything, they don't cause viruses or diseases. They're just a nuisance. You find them mostly in the hive on the bottom board where pollen drops down there. They'll be down in there. Sometimes you'll see them. But I guess if you had a huge infestation, they could get on your bees and bother your bees, but they're not going to be anything like killing a colony or causing ultimate harm. And no, I don't know of any treatment that you would use to battle that. I think it would be rare to see them. I think it would be unusual, but it does happen. Yep. All right. David says, my bees have slowed down on consumption of food. I assume they do not need as much this time of year. Yeah, you're probably feeding them. What are you feeding them? 1-to-1 sugar water, something like that. And they're not eating as much anymore. Yeah, once they get to a place where they have enough on board, they don't need to consume more. But it also could be that your temperatures are below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you're feeding 1-to-1 sugar water, they're less likely to eat cold sugar water. And so heating it up doesn't really work either. It can help if you heat it up and they might consume it more. But once it gets cooler, that's why I use my Winter Bee Kind candy boards, which we just started shipping, some of those. Yeah, I think it's better to feed a candy board where bees can actually consume that at a more steady pace than the liquid. Sometimes I'm worried about feeding liquid to bees in the wintertime. Might fill their gut up too fast, or it might cause excess moisture buildup in the hive. That's a lot of moisture you're putting in the hive in the winter. So I'd rather them have a harder candy, not hard candy. Like I don't like the idea of granulated sugar in a hive because it's so hard. It's crystallized sugar, and it takes a lot of moisture for the bees to consume that. Bees don't use they don't have teeth where they grind. They just clamp down and eat granulated sugar. They have to have moisture to make it edible to them. Everything a bee eats, they basically eat through a straw, their proboscis. And so I prefer to give them a candy board that is of the consistency where they can take the moisture from the hive and consume the candy in that candy board. Wow, that's great. Well, I wanted to let you guys know an important announcement. I should have said it earlier because some of you may not have made it this far into the video, but thanks for watching. But on November the 28th through December the 2nd, this is like Black Friday weekend, we're going to be offering our online beekeeping courses at 50% off, half price. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. If you like me and my teaching style, then you'll like all the courses that I offer. It'll help you get a good foundation on beekeeping. I'm afraid if you watch YouTube, and I'm a YouTube content creator on beekeeping, have been since 2008, but if you just get your content off YouTube, it comes in usually no organized way. You know, you might watch a video on Vivaldi boards and you're like, I'm a new beekeeper. What's a Vivaldi board? You're right. Or somebody might say, like Jessica asked about pollen mites, and you might watch a video on pollen mites. Oh my gosh, I'm scared to death. My bees have pollen mites. You're a new beekeeper that really doesn't understand the basics of beekeeping, and yet you're talking about Vivaldi boards and pollen mites and some of the other things that you see videos on. And it can cause you to be very worried about things you don't need to be worried about. There's no systematic way to get sometimes a good flow of information from just individual YouTube videos, even mine, you know? So I would say you need to take a class that can start you in the beginning. Like my online classes will actually walk you through, like from knowing nothing to understanding the process all the way through so that you can have a fundamental that you totally understand the big picture of bee biology, colony biology, just the anatomy of the whole bees and boxes and feeding and seasons and all that. I think that's critical. But anyway, that'll be on sale coming up on Thanksgiving Day. So be looking for that. Also, I do love our live stream very much. We have a hoot. I can't say enough about the Beak Squad family on the YouTube channel that we enjoy getting together. And every Thursday night, we have such a good time in the chat. We have a good time. I teach a lesson on beekeeping, and then I answer your questions, and we have giveaways. And so it's a good time for beekeepers to get together because let's face it, beekeepers are we're an unusual group of people. We really are, okay? I'm not calling you weird, but we are a little unusual. I mean, we're keeping a bug, trying to keep bugs in a box that fly and sting. You know, if you've ever raised children and when they're in that toddler age and you're chasing them everywhere, they don't sting and they can't fly away. But we're trying to raise a family of bees that sting and fly. And then yet we spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars as beekeepers on our bees. And yet they don't always do what the books say they should be doing. And they make us frustrated sometimes. And we pull our hair out trying to figure it out. But what happens? We keep doing it because we love beekeeping. But one of the, I guess, the oases of beekeeping is getting with other beekeepers and sharing your war stories. Like, oh yeah, I've had that happen to me too. you know, there's a joke about older people, and I think I am one. Although I don't have any aches and pains and health issues, knock on wood, but the old joke is that old people sit around and they say, hey, I got, oh, my shoulder. Oh, yeah, I've got that too. And hey, I've had that surgery. Look at my scar. Yeah, I've had that surgery too. Well, that's what beekeepers do. It's like, yeah, my hive swarmed. Oh, yeah, I had a hive die like that. It is kind of comforting. Misery loves comfort. And it makes us feel like we're not the only ones. And so our live stream, I think the live stream is a great place to come and just understand that I'm not the only one out here going through good times and bad times in beekeeping, and it makes you want to stay in a little bit longer when you can get with a crowd of people that you enjoy being with. So, gosh, you got to check out our live stream. It makes my week, actually. It's one of the highlights of my week on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. And from Greece, 3:50 a.m. watching it, that means a lot to me. So thanks, and thank all of you for being a part of the live stream where I do try to work hard to answer your question. Now, if you didn't get a chance to see last night's live stream, I spent some time talking about why bees die. Let's get to the heart of the real reasons, and let's get rid of the wrong reasons that we attribute to colonies dying. We need to get that off our list, find out what really is killing bees so we can keep them alive. If you didn't see that live stream, here it is. You can watch the replay. I'll see you guys over there.